I should back up. The venue was one of those repurposed industrial spaces downtown. Exposed brick, Edison bulbs hanging from black iron fixtures, polished concrete floors that echoed every footstep. The kind of place that costs a fortune to look casually expensive. My daughter Emma had chosen it herself, spent months coordinating every detail with her fiancé's family. I'd written the check without comment. The ceremony itself had been fine. Traditional enough to satisfy my wife Anne, modern enough to satisfy Emma. I'd walked her down the aisle, handed her off to James, sat down in the front row, and watched my youngest child promise her life to someone I barely knew. James worked in tech. That's all I really understood about him. Something with apps, or platforms, or user experience. He wore expensive sneakers to family dinners and called everyone dude, regardless of age or gender. But Emma loved him, or said she did, and that was supposed to be enough. The reception started at 6. Cocktail hour in the main space, dinner to follow in the adjoining hall. I'd shaken hands with relatives I hadn't seen in years, accepted congratulations from people whose names I couldn't remember, and smiled until my face hurt. Anne stayed close, her hand finding mine whenever the crowd pressed in too tight. She knew I hated these things, large gatherings, forced conversation, the performance of joy. "You're doing great," she'd whispered during a brief moment alone near the bar. "I'm counting the minutes until we can leave." 4 more hours. Christ. She'd squeezed my hand and drifted back into the crowd, pulled into conversation with Emma's college friends. I'd ordered a whiskey, neat, and found a corner near the windows where I could watch without participating. That's when I noticed the looks. Small things at first. A cousin who made eye contact, then immediately looked away. One of James's groomsmen who whispered something to another guy, both of them glancing in my direction. A woman I didn't recognize who stared at me for a solid 10 seconds before her husband pulled her away. I told myself I was imagining it. Paranoia bred from social exhaustion. But the feeling persisted, a low hum of wrongness underneath the music and laughter. Around 7, I'd stepped outside for air. The venue had a back corridor that led to a service entrance and a small loading area behind the building. It was quieter there, just the distant thump of bass and the occasional shout of kitchen staff. I'd pulled out my phone, scrolled through nothing, let the cool evening air clear my head. I was out there maybe 10 minutes. When I came back inside, threading through the service hallway toward the main reception space, a man stepped directly into my path. I'd never seen him before. Mid-40s, clean-shaven, wearing a suit that looked rented. He had the kind of face that disappeared in a crowd. Forgettable features, neutral expression. He wasn't smiling. "Excuse me," I said, trying to step around him. He moved with me, blocking my path again. "You're Emma's father." "I am. Do I know you?" "No." He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a phone. Not his regular phone, I noticed. An older model, the kind you'd use as a backup or burner. "But you should see this." "See what?" "You should hear what was recorded when you left the room." My stomach dropped before I understood why. Something in his tone, maybe. The careful neutrality of it. The way he held the phone out like an offering, like evidence. "What are you talking about?" "Just watch." He pressed play. The screen showed the interior of a room I recognized immediately, the bridal suite where Emma and her bridesmaids had gotten ready before the ceremony. The angle was from above, probably a phone propped on a shelf or dresser. The video quality was decent, clear enough. And then I heard my own voice. She's always been dramatic. Ever since she was a kid, everything's a production. I went cold. That was me. My voice, my cadence, my slight Midwest flattening of vowels. But I couldn't remember saying those words, couldn't remember the context. The video continued. Another voice, Emma's, off camera. "He doesn't mean it," my voice again. "I mean exactly what I say. She manipulates situations to get attention. It's exhausting." "Dad." And James is too polite to call it out. Give it a year. He'll see it too. The video cut off. I stared at the blank screen, my mind racing to place the conversation. When had I said that? Where? The words felt familiar in the way a half-remembered dream feels familiar. Possible, but distorted. "Where did you get this?" I asked. The man took the phone back, slipping it into his pocket. "Does it matter?" "Someone who thought you should know what people are hearing." "What people?" He gestured vaguely toward the reception hall. "The people in there? Your family, Emma's friends, James's parents?" The floor seemed to tilt. "You're saying this has been shared?" "I'm saying Emma played it during cocktail hour, for a select group. The bridesmaids, James's family, a few close relatives. She wanted people to understand why she's been distant with you lately." My hands clenched. "That's not... I don't remember saying any of that. It's your voice. Voices can be edited. Faked. Can they? He tilted his head, studying me. Or did you say something careless a few weeks ago, not realizing your daughter was recording? The memory hit me then, sudden and sharp. 3 weeks ago. Emma had come to the house for Sunday dinner. Anne was in the kitchen. Emma and I were in the living room talking about wedding logistics. She'd been stressed about the seating chart, worried about family drama, about keeping everyone happy. I'd said something about her tendency to overthink things, to make mountains out of molehills. I'd said it gently. I thought I'd said it gently. But if she'd recorded it, if she'd cut and spliced the audio, removed the context, isolated the harshest phrases. Why are you telling me this? I asked. The man shrugged. Seemed like the right thing to do. You don't even know me. I know enough. He stepped aside, clearing my path. Good luck in there. He walked away before I could respond, disappearing down the hallway toward the main entrance. I stood there, phone in hand, trying to process what I'd just learned. Emma had recorded me, had edited the recording, had shared it on her wedding day. My daughter had weaponized my voice against me. I walked back into the reception on autopilot, my mind still caught on that video. The space felt different now, the laughter too loud, the music too aggressive. I scanned the crowd, looking for Emma, and found her near the head table, talking with James's mother. She saw me, and her expression didn't change. No guilt, no nervousness, just a cool, measured acknowledgement. She knew what she'd done. Anne materialized at my elbow. Where were you? Outside, getting air. You missed the toasts? Did I? She studied my face. What's wrong? Nothing. Don't lie to me. I pulled her aside, toward the windows, away from the crowd. In low tones, I told her about the stranger, the phone, the recording. Anne listened without interrupting, her expression hardening with each sentence. That's not possible, she said when I finished. I heard it. You heard something. That doesn't mean Emma... It was her room, her bridesmaids, her wedding. I kept my voice low, controlled. She planned this. Anne looked toward the head table, where Emma was laughing at something James's father said. Why would she do that? I don't know. You must have some idea. I don't. But that wasn't entirely true. In the past year, Emma had grown distant. Calls became less frequent, visits shorter. She'd stopped asking for advice, stopped sharing details about her life. I'd assumed it was natural separation, the inevitable pulling away that happens when children become adults. Anne had suggested giving her space, letting her come to us when she was ready. Now I wondered if the distance had been deliberate, calculated. We need to talk to her, Anne said. Not here. Then when? I don't know. Later. After... I gestured helplessly at the reception. After all this. Anne's jaw tightened. She nodded once, then walked away, moving through the crowd toward Emma. I watched her go, feeling the weight of every stare, every whispered conversation. The cousin who'd avoided eye contact earlier was watching me now, his expression somewhere between pity and disgust. James's groomsman leaned toward his friend, said something behind his hand. They all knew. Emma had made sure of it. I found the bar and ordered another whiskey. The bartender, a kid barely old enough to drink himself, poured heavy without comment. I took the glass to the windows and stood there, sipping slowly, watching the party unfold around me like a play I hadn't auditioned for. Dinner was called. I found my assigned seat at a table near the back, far from the head table, surrounded by people I didn't know. Anne was seated elsewhere, separated from me for reasons I could now guess. The meal passed in a blur. Rubber chicken, overcooked vegetables, small talk that died the moment I tried to participate. The woman across from me, someone's aunt or cousin, asked what I did for work. I'm in construction management, I said. She nodded, smiled tightly, and turned to the person beside her. After dinner came the first dance, the cake cutting, the garter toss. I watched from my table, barely touching my food. Emma looked radiant, all smiles and laughter. James looked proud. They moved through the traditional moments with practiced ease, hitting every expected beat. And through it all, Emma never looked at me, not once. Around 9, Anne found me again. I talked to her. And? She denies it. The recording exists. She says you misunderstood, that it was taken out of context. By who? She's the one who shared it. Anne's expression was carefully neutral. She says she shared a conversation between the two of you. That's all. She says people drew their own conclusions. That's bullshit. I know. We stood there in silence, watching Emma dance with James's father. The song was something slow, probably requested. Emma laughed at something he said, her head thrown back, the picture of joy. "She's lying," I said quietly. "I know," Anne repeated. "So what do we do?" Anne didn't answer immediately. When she did, her voice was cold in a way I'd rarely heard. "We figure out why." The reception wound down around 11. Guests began trickling out, calling Ubers, collecting coats. Emma and James stayed until the end, thanking everyone, hugging relatives, posing for final photos. I waited near the exit, watching. When Emma finally approached, James was with her. They walked over together, hand in hand, still glowing from the evening. "Dad," Emma said, "thanks for coming," as if I'd had a choice. "We need to talk," I said. "Sure, call me next week. We'll do lunch." "Not next week, now." James tensed. "Maybe this isn't the time." "I'm talking to my daughter." Emma's smile never wavered. "Dad, I'm exhausted. And can this wait?" "No." "Then I guess it'll have to wait anyway." She kissed my cheek, the gesture performative, meant for the lingering guests watching from across the room. "Love you. Thank you for everything." They walked away, moving toward the venue exit where a car was waiting. I watched them go, my hands clenched at my sides. Anne touched my arm. "Not here," she said again. "Then where?" "Home. We'll figure this out at home." We drove back in silence. The house felt too quiet, too empty after the noise of the reception. Anne went straight to the bedroom. I poured another drink and sat in the living room, replaying the evening in my mind. The stranger with the phone, Emma's denial, the looks from the guests, the careful seating arrangement that isolated me from my own family. Emma hadn't just recorded me. She'd staged an entire narrative, complete with witnesses and evidence. She'd turned my own voice into a weapon and deployed it on the day I was supposed to celebrate her happiness. Why? I didn't have an answer. Not yet, but I would find one. Around 2 a.m, my phone buzzed. A text from a number I didn't recognize. Ask your daughter about the loan. Ask her why she really needed the money." I stared at the message for a long time before deleting it. Then I opened my banking app and started scrolling through transactions from the past 6 months. I didn't sleep. By the time gray light started bleeding through the curtains, I'd traced nearly $40,000 in transfers to Emma over the past year. Not all at once. Small amounts at first, a few hundred here and there, then larger chunks. 2,000, 5,000, 8. She'd always had a reason. Car repairs, emergency dental work, an unexpected tax bill. Each request came with apologetic texts and promises to pay me back. I'd never questioned it, never asked for proof or receipts. I'd just sent the money. Anne found me at the kitchen table around 6. Bank statements spread across the surface. My laptop open to Emma's social media. I'd been scrolling through photos from the past year, looking for signs I'd missed. Evidence of financial trouble. There wasn't any. "You look terrible," Anne said. "Couldn't sleep." She poured coffee, sat down across from me. Her eyes moved over the papers. "What is all this?" "Money I gave Emma, almost 40 grand. Anne went very still. $40,000? Over 12 months. She always had a reason. "What reasons?" I told her. Listed each one from memory, watching Anne's expression shift from confusion to anger. "We never discussed this," she said carefully. "She asked me not to tell you, said you'd worry." "I would have. I should have." Anne pulled one of the statements closer. "This is a lot of money." "I know." "And now someone is telling you to ask her about a loan?" "That's what the text said." "From who?" "Unknown number." Anne sat back, processing. Outside, the neighborhood was waking up. A dog barked, a car door slammed. Normal Sunday morning sounds that felt surreal after the previous night. "Do you think she's in trouble?" Anne asked. "I don't know what I think." "We need to talk to her." "She won't answer. Not today. She's probably on a plane to her honeymoon by now." Anne checked her phone. "They're flying out at noon. We have time." I looked at her. "You want to go to the airport?" "I want answers." We drove fast, arriving at the departure terminal just after 8. Anne called Emma's phone while I circled the drop-off area looking for them. No answer. She tried James. Same result. "They might have checked in already," I said. "Then we go inside." We parked and moved through the terminal, scanning the crowds. It was Sunday morning, the post-wedding lull, and the airport was quieter than usual. We found them at a coffee shop near their gate. Emma and James, sitting close, looking at James's phone, laughing about something. They didn't see us approach. "Emma," Anne said. Emma looked up. Her smile died. "Mom, Dad, what are you doing here?" "We need to talk." We're about to board. This can't wait. Anne's voice had that edge I recognized, the one that meant she was past negotiating. You recorded your father. You edited the audio to make him sound cruel, then you shared it at your wedding. Why? James stood. Maybe we should. Sit down, I said. He sat. Emma's expression shifted, the mask of surprise replaced by something colder. I shared a private conversation, that's all. You shared a weaponized edit designed to humiliate me in front of our family, I said. Don't pretend otherwise. If you felt humiliated, maybe you should think about why. What does that mean? Emma leaned forward. It means you've been dismissive of me for years. It means you talk about me like I'm a problem to be managed. It means I'm tired of pretending everything is fine when it's not. Anne's voice cut in, sharp. So you ambushed him at your wedding, in front of 200 people? I didn't ambush anyone. I let people hear the truth. An edited version of the truth. The important parts were all there. I felt my hands clench. The $40,000. What was that really for? Emma went very still. The coffee shop around us continued its normal rhythm, but at our table, everything stopped. What are you talking about? Emma said. I looked at the records. You've taken $40,000 from me in the past year, car repairs, dental work, tax bills. None of it was real, was it? James shifted uncomfortably. Emma's face was a mask. Answer the question, Anne said. That's between me and Dad. Not anymore, I said. Tell me what you needed the money for. Emma stood, gathering her bag. We're going to miss our flight. I stood too, blocking her path. Around us, people were starting to stare. I didn't care. Tell me the truth, I said quietly. You owe me that much. For a long moment, Emma just looked at me. Then she spoke, her voice low and controlled. You want the truth? Fine. The money was for James's debt. Student loans, credit cards. He was drowning when we met. I helped him. With my money. You were going to give it to me eventually anyway. Inheritance. Wedding gift. What does it matter when? It matters that you lied. I didn't lie. I just didn't explain. That's the same thing. Emma's expression hardened. You wouldn't have understood. You would have judged him, thought he wasn't good enough for me. So instead, you manipulated me. I protected my relationship. By stealing from your father? James finally spoke. It wasn't stealing. She asked. You gave. I turned on him. You knew about this? Of course I knew. And the recording? You knew about that too? James didn't answer. He didn't have to. The guilt on his face said everything. Jesus Christ, I said. Anne grabbed my arm. Let's go. We're not done. Yes, we are. She pulled harder. Come on. We walked away, leaving Emma and James at their table. I heard Emma call after us once, but we didn't stop. Didn't turn around. We made it back to the car before I lost it, slamming my hand against the hood hard enough to hurt. She planned this, I said. The recording, the money, all of it. She's been planning this. I know. Why? What did I do to make her hate me this much? Anne didn't have an answer. We drove home in silence, the weight of betrayal settling over everything like fog. Back at the house, I went to my office and started digging deeper. If Emma had lied about the money, what else had she lied about? I pulled up her social media again, this time looking for James. His profiles were sparse, carefully curated, but in the comments and tags, I found threads. References to debts, collection agencies, a eviction from 2 years ago, court records I could access with minimal effort. James had been in financial freefall when he'd met Emma. $60,000 in credit card debt, another $80,000 in student loans, multiple late payments, defaulted accounts, a credit score in the low 400s. Emma hadn't just helped him, she'd saved him. With my money, I kept searching. Found the loan Emma's anonymous text had mentioned, a private personal loan from a company that specialized in high-risk borrowers, $20,000 at 18% interest, taken out 4 months ago in Emma's name to cover James's bankruptcy attorney fees. I sat back, feeling sick. This wasn't just about money. Emma had tied herself legally and financially to James before they were married. She'd leveraged my support, my trust, to build a foundation for their life together. And when I'd questioned her, even gently, about wedding stress or overthinking, she'd turned it into ammunition. Anne appeared in the doorway. You need to see this. She held out her phone. On the screen was a private Facebook group, the kind used for event planning and coordination. The wedding party group. Emma had posted in it yesterday, hours before the ceremony. The post read, "Quick reminder, my dad can be difficult. If he says anything weird or inappropriate today, just smile and redirect. I'll handle it later. Thanks for understanding." Below it, dozens of comments. sympathetic responses from bridesmaids, supportive messages from James's family, a few from relatives I recognized, offering to help manage the situation if needed. Emma had primed everyone to see me as a problem before I'd even arrived. "She set you up?" Anne said. "Yeah." "This was premeditated." "Yeah." Anne's expression was cold, controlled fury. "What do you want to do?" I looked at her, really looked at her. Anne had been my partner for 32 years. We'd built a life together, raised 2 children, survived career changes and financial stress and all the mundane erosions that break most marriages. I knew her faces, her moods, her limits. This face, right now, was new. "I don't know yet," I said. "Figure it out." She left me there, alone with the evidence of my daughter's betrayal spread across 3 screens. I should have felt something clear. Anger, maybe. Grief. Instead, I felt cold, analytical, like I was looking at a problem to be solved rather than a relationship to be salvaged. Emma had used me, had lied systematically over months, had turned my own family against me through carefully deployed manipulation. The question wasn't why. The question was what I was going to do about it. I spent the rest of Sunday building a timeline. Every transfer, every text, every conversation I could remember. I mapped it out in a spreadsheet, color-coded and cross-referenced. By evening, the pattern was clear. Emma's requests had increased whenever James faced a deadline, a court date, a creditor calling. Each time, she'd come to me with a different story, always urgent, always apologetic, and each time, I'd sent money within hours. She'd played me perfectly. My phone rang around 8, unknown number. I answered. "You saw the loan," the stranger from the wedding said. "Who are you?" "Does it matter?" "How do you know all this?" "I pay attention. You should too." "What do you want?" "I don't want anything. I just think you deserve to know what your daughter is really doing." "Then tell me." Silence on the line. Then, "The recording wasn't the first one. She's been documenting you for months, building a case." My stomach dropped. "A case for what?" "Insurance, in case you ever cut her off financially. She's building evidence that you're emotionally abusive, controlling, dangerous even. That way, if you stop giving her money, she has proof of why she needs to stay away from you." "That's insane." "Is it? Think about how she framed that recording. Think about what she told her wedding guests. She's writing a narrative where you're the villain and she's the victim. All she needs is enough people to believe it." "Why are you telling me this?" "Because someone should." He hung up. I sat there, phone in hand, feeling the room spin. If he was right, if Emma had more recordings, more evidence she'd manufactured, then confronting her directly would only give her more ammunition. Anything I said, any emotion I showed, could be recorded and recontextualized. I was trapped. Unless. The thought came slowly, carefully. Emma had weaponized truth, or her version of it. She'd used my own words against me, editing and reframing until I became the monster in her story. But truth worked both ways. If I could expose what Emma had really done, if I could show people the financial manipulation, the systematic lying, the premeditated setup, then her narrative would collapse. The victim story only worked if people believed it, and people stopped believing when they saw proof of deception. I just needed to be smarter about it than she'd been, more careful, more patient. Anne came back around 9, carrying takeout neither of us would eat. She sat down across from me, looking at the spreadsheet still open on my screen. "You're planning something," she said. "I'm thinking." "Same thing with you." She set the food aside. "What are you thinking?" I told her. Laid out the stranger's claims about multiple recordings. Explained my theory about Emma's narrative construction. Walked through what would happen if I did nothing versus what might happen if I pushed back strategically. Anne listened without interrupting. When I finished, she asked one question. "Do you want revenge or do you want resolution?" "What's the difference?" "Resolution means we find a way to repair this. Eventually. Revenge means we make sure she loses." I thought about Emma at the coffee shop, her cold dismissal, the lies, the manipulation, the way she'd looked at me like I was an obstacle rather than her father. "I want her to understand what she did," I said. "That's not an answer." "It's the only one I have right now." Anne nodded slowly. "Then we do this carefully. We don't act out of anger. We don't do anything we can't take back." "Agreed. And if we're doing this, we're doing it together. No secrets, no solo missions." "Okay." She reached across the table, took my hand. Her grip was firm, steady. "She hurt you. She hurt both of us. But she's still our daughter." "Is she?" "Yes, even if she doesn't act like it right now." I wanted to believe that. Wanted to think that somewhere underneath the lies and manipulation was the daughter I'd raised, the girl who used to fall asleep on my shoulder during long car rides, who'd called me crying from college when her roommate situation fell apart, who'd asked my advice about jobs and relationships and whether she was making the right choices, but that person felt like a stranger now. Maybe she always had been. Friday morning, I went back to work and tried to pretend everything was normal. It almost worked. The physical labor helped, the routine of managing crews and solving problems. For a few hours, I could forget about Emma and the restraining order threat and the crater where my family used to be. Then my foreman pulled me aside around lunch. "Hey, Mike wanted me to ask you something." Mike was one of our longtime guys, been with the company for 15 years, solid worker, never caused problems. "What's up?" I asked. He saw some stuff on Facebook about you and your daughter, wanted to know if everything was okay. My stomach dropped. What did he see? "I guess some mutual friends shared posts before you deleted them. He's concerned." "About what?" The foreman shifted uncomfortably. "About whether there's truth to what your daughter's saying." "There isn't." I told him that, but, he wanted me to ask if maybe you needed some time off to deal with family stuff. Translation. Mike thought I might be unstable, possibly dangerous. Best to keep me away from the job site until things settled down. "Tell Mike I'm fine," I said. "Family drama doesn't affect my work." "I know that, just passing along the message." He walked away. I stood there, feeling the weight of Emma's accusations spreading beyond social media into my professional life. If people at work were questioning me, who else was? And I finished the day and drove home. Anne was already there, sitting at the kitchen table with her laptop open. She looked up when I entered. "We have a problem," she said. "Another one?" Emma filed for a restraining order. The world tilted. "Based on what?" "Based on you showing up at the airport, the therapy session walkout, the social media posts. She's claiming you're harassing her and she fears for her safety." "That's insane." "I know, but there's a hearing Monday. We need to be there." I sat down heavily. A restraining order against her own father. She's committed now. Can't back down without looking like she lied. So she doubles down. That's what people do when they're cornered. She's not cornered. She's winning. Anne closed the laptop. It doesn't feel like winning to her. She's scared. Of what? I haven't done anything. Of being exposed. Of people seeing through the victim story. Of losing control of the narrative. Anne paused. And maybe of being wrong. I wanted to believe that. Wanted to think somewhere under the performance and manipulation was my daughter, scared and confused and unsure. But every action she'd taken suggested otherwise. This wasn't fear, this was strategy. "What do we do about Monday?" I asked. "We show up, we present our side. We show the judge this is a family dispute, not a safety issue." "Will that work?" "I don't know." We spent the weekend preparing. Gathered the statements from character witnesses, organized our timeline, documented every interaction with Emma since the wedding. My lawyer reviewed everything Saturday afternoon. "It's good," he said. "Shows a pattern of escalation from Emma, not you, but restraining orders have a low bar. If Emma convincingly claims she feels threatened, the judge might grant a temporary order just to be safe, even without evidence of actual threats. Especially without evidence. The system errs on the side of protection. Better to grant an unnecessary restraining order than miss a real threat. So I'm guilty until proven innocent. In these situations, basically, yes. Monday arrived. We drove downtown to the courthouse, parked, and made our way through security. The hallways were crowded with people handling various legal matters, divorces, custody disputes, traffic violations. We found our courtroom and waited. Emma and James arrived 10 minutes before the hearing. Emma looked small, vulnerable. She'd dressed carefully. Simple clothes, minimal makeup, an expression of fear that probably wasn't entirely fake. James stayed close, protective. They sat on the opposite side of the hallway. Neither of them looked at us. "She's playing this perfectly," Anne murmured. "Yeah." Our lawyer arrived, reviewed our materials one last time. "Remember, stay calm in there. Don't react emotionally. Let me do the talking." We were called in at 9:30. The courtroom was smaller than I'd expected, less formal. The judge, a woman in her 50s, looked tired. We took our seats at separate tables. The hearing began. Emma's lawyer spoke first, laying out her case, the recording I'd supposedly not known about, my aggressive appearance at the airport, the threatening social media posts, the therapy session I'd stormed out of. They painted a picture of an unstable father unable to accept his daughter's independence. Emma testified next. She was calm, measured, described feeling unsafe around me, worried about what I might do next, claimed the social media posts felt like an attack designed to destroy her reputation, said she was afraid I might escalate to physical confrontation. It was a masterful performance. Then our lawyer presented our case, showed the financial records, the text messages documenting Emma's manipulation, explained the recording was edited and taken out of context, presented statements from witnesses who'd known me for years, all testifying I'd never been violent or threatening. The judge listened without expression. When both sides finished, she reviewed her notes for a long moment. "This appears to be a family conflict, not a safety issue," she finally said. "However, given the escalating nature of the interactions and Ms. Foster's stated concerns, I'm going to grant a temporary restraining order for 30 days. Mr. Foster, you are to have no contact with your daughter during this period. No calls, texts, emails, or in-person contact. No contact through third parties. After 30 days, we'll reconvene and determine if the order should be extended or dissolved." My lawyer stood. "Your Honor, with respect, there's no evidence of threats or violence. I've made my decision. 30 days. That gives everyone time to cool down and reflect." She banged her gavel. Hearing over. I sat there, stunned. Emma had done it. Legally prevented me from contacting her for 30 days. The restraining order would go on public record, visible to anyone who searched my name. Another mark against my character. We left the courtroom. Emma and James were gone, probably out a side exit. Anne and I walked to the car in silence. "I can't believe that happened," I said once we were on the road. "I can." Anne's voice was flat. "The system is designed to protect people claiming abuse. Emma knew that. So now what? Now we wait 30 days, document everything, and prepare for the next hearing. And if she extends it, then we keep fighting." I drove home on autopilot. The restraining order felt surreal, like something that happened to other people in other situations. Not to fathers and daughters arguing over wedding drama, but here we were. My phone buzzed. The stranger again. Saw the hearing notice. That's unfortunate. "You have cameras in the courthouse now?" "Public records are public." "How'd it go?" "How do you think?" "She got the order." "Yeah. Told you she was escalating." "Great. Thanks for the prediction. Very helpful." He ignored the sarcasm. "You know what this means, right? The restraining order legitimizes her narrative. Now, when people ask why she's not talking to you, she has legal documentation that you're a threat." "I know." "Do you? Because from here, it looks like you're still playing defense, still reacting to her moves instead of making your own." "What moves?" "I'm legally barred from contact for 30 days. With Emma, yes. Not with everyone else." "What's that supposed to mean?" "Figure it out. You're smarter than you're acting." He hung up. I sat in the driveway, thinking about what he'd said. Not contact with Emma. But everyone else? James? The therapist? The friends who'd witnessed the wedding setup? The people who knew what Emma was really doing? I went inside and pulled up James's information. His workplace was listed on LinkedIn, a tech startup downtown, one of those open office places with ping-pong tables and cold brew on tap. I could show up there, talk to him directly. No law against that. But what would I say? James was committed to Emma's version of events. He wasn't going to suddenly flip and admit they'd been manipulating me for months, unless he had his own reasons to. I spent the evening researching James. Not just the public bankruptcy records this time. I dug deeper, found old blog posts, forum comments, social media from before he'd cleaned up his online presence. There was a pattern. James had a history of attaching to women with resources, an ex-girlfriend who'd paid off his credit cards, another who'd co-signed a lease he'd defaulted on, a third who'd loaned him money for a business opportunity that never materialized. Emma wasn't the first woman James had used. She was just the latest. And if I could show her that, if I could break through the narrative she'd built, maybe she'd see what she'd gotten herself into. But I had 30 days of no contact. Couldn't approach Emma directly. However, I could approach James. Tuesday morning, I called in sick again and drove downtown. James's office building was glass and steel, all modern lines and expensive architecture. I found a coffee shop across the street with a view of the entrance and waited. James emerged around noon, walking with two coworkers toward a lunch spot a block away. I followed at a distance, waited until his friends went inside, then intercepted him before he could join them. "James," he spun around, startled. "Mr. Foster, you're not supposed to contact Emma." "I'm not contacting Emma. I'm talking to you." "I don't think that's a good idea." "Probably not, but we're going to talk anyway." James glanced toward the restaurant where his friends had gone, calculating whether to run or engage. 5 minutes, I said. That's all I'm asking. He reluctantly nodded. We stepped into a small plaza nearby, away from foot traffic. What do you want? James asked. I want to understand why you're letting Emma destroy her relationship with her family to cover your debts. James went very still. I don't know what you're talking about. Yes, you do? You were drowning financially when you met Emma. She used my money to bail you out. And when I started asking questions, you two decided to paint me as abusive so she could keep accessing my accounts without scrutiny. That's not what happened. Then tell me what did happen. James looked away, jaw tight. Emma was helping me get back on my feet. That's all. With money she lied to me about. She didn't lie. She just didn't explain everything. That's lying by omission. Look, I don't expect you to understand, but Emma and I are building a life together. Sometimes that requires financial help from family. You gave that help. Why does it matter what it was used for? Because she recorded me, manipulated the audio, shared it publicly, all to create a narrative that justified continuing to take my money while pushing me away. James shook his head. You're paranoid. Am I? How many women have you done this with, James? How many relationships have you used to dig yourself out of debt? His expression darkened. I don't have to listen to this. No, you don't. But you should know I'm not going to stop digging, and eventually Emma's going to figure out who you really are. When that happens, she won't have me to fall back on. You'll have made sure of that. Are you threatening me? I'm warning you. You convinced Emma to burn down her family for your benefit. When she realizes that, do you think she'll forgive you? James stepped closer, his voice low. Emma knows exactly what she's doing. This isn't me manipulating her. This is her making choices that prioritize her future over your ego. My ego has nothing to do with this, doesn't it? You can't handle that she chose someone else, that she built a life that doesn't revolve around your approval, so you're retaliating, trying to destroy what we have. I'm trying to save her from a con artist. By stalking me at work, by harassing her through legal technicalities, you're proving her right about everything. He walked away, disappearing into the restaurant. I stood there, frustrated. The conversation had gone nowhere. James was too committed to the narrative, too invested in making it real. But he'd revealed something. Emma knows exactly what she's doing. This isn't me manipulating her, which meant Emma was a willing participant, not a victim of James's influence, a partner in the deception. That hurt more than anything else. The idea that my daughter had consciously chosen this path, had calculated every move, had looked at me and decided I was a resource to exploit rather than a father to value. I drove home. Anne was waiting. You talked to James, she said. Not a question. How did you know? Because I know you? What did he say? That Emma's making her own choices. That this isn't his manipulation. Do you believe him? I don't know. Maybe. Anne sat down, processing. If Emma's doing this willingly, if she's not being controlled, then what? We just accept that our daughter is cruel? I think we accept that our daughter is complicated and hurt and lashing out in the worst possible way. That doesn't excuse anything. No, but it reframes it. This isn't James corrupting Emma. This is Emma choosing James and choosing this path, which means reaching her requires something different than exposing James. Like what? I didn't have an answer, not yet. Over the next week, I dove deeper into Emma's past. Not the recent past, but years back. High school, college, early career. I was looking for patterns, moments that might explain how we'd gotten here. I found some. Small things, mostly. Times Emma had manipulated situations to her advantage. A high school teacher she'd convinced to change her grade by crying about family stress. A college roommate she'd turned friends against through careful deployment of half-truths. An early boss she'd gotten fired by documenting minor mistakes and presenting them as major infractions. Emma had always been strategic. I'd just never seen it directed at me. Anne found something else. Old text messages between Emma and James from when they had first started dating. I'd given Anne access to our phone account, and she'd recovered deleted texts from backups. The messages showed Emma pursuing James, not the other way around. She'd sought him out, learned about his financial troubles, and almost immediately started positioning herself as his savior. Within 2 months, she was talking about long-term plans. Within 4, she'd asked me for the first emergency payment. She targeted him, Anne said quietly, showing me the messages. Or she fell in love and wanted to help. Look at the language. She's calculating, talking about what she can leverage, how much you'd give, how to frame each request. I read through the text. Anne was right. Emma wasn't a victim in this. She was an architect. Why? I asked. Why would she do this? I don't know. Control? Power? Maybe she needed to prove she could manipulate someone successfully. By manipulating me. You were safe. You trusted her completely. You'd never question her. Until I did. And then she destroyed you for it. I sat with that for a long time. My daughter had used me as practice, as a proving ground for her ability to manipulate and control. And when I'd threatened that control, she'd escalated to public humiliation and legal action. This wasn't about money. It wasn't about James. It was about power. Emma needed to win. And she'd do whatever it took to make sure she did. The question was, what was I willing to do in response? The 30-day restraining order ticked down. I followed it to the letter, maintained no contact with Emma, and spent the time building a file that would make the next hearing impossible to rule against me. Character statements, financial records, psychological analysis of the manipulation pattern. You're treating this like a criminal trial, he said during a review session 2 weeks in. Should I be treating it like something else? It's a family court matter. The judge wants to see reconciliation attempts, not warfare. Emma filed the restraining order. I'm just defending myself. By building a case that makes her look like a sociopath. If the evidence shows that, the evidence shows a family in crisis. Yes, Emma manipulated you financially. Yes, she edited recordings, but you're trying to paint her as pathological, and that's going to backfire. I didn't care. Emma had escalated at every turn. I was done playing nice. During week 3, I received another anonymous text. Different number this time. You should check Emma's medical records. Recent ones. I stared at the message. Medical records weren't public. Someone with access was feeding me information. Who is this? I replied. No response. I called the number. It rang twice, then disconnected. When I tried again, it said the number was no longer in service. Anne looked over my shoulder at the text. That's concerning. Medical records? Why would someone want you to see Emma's medical records? No idea. Unless there's something there that contradicts her victim narrative. We both fell silent, considering. Emma had been claiming emotional distress, anxiety, fear. What if her medical records showed something else? What if there was evidence of calculated manipulation rather than genuine trauma? We can't access her medical records, Anne said. That's illegal. I know. So this is bait. Someone trying to get you to do something that would prove Emma's claims about you being controlling. She was probably right. But the text bothered me for days. Someone was watching this situation closely. Someone with inside access to information I couldn't get. The stranger, maybe. But the stranger had always called, never texted. This felt like someone else. Day 28 of the restraining order, James's car was in our driveway when I got home from work. He was sitting on the hood, waiting. You're not supposed to be here, I said, approaching cautiously. I'm not Emma. The restraining order doesn't apply to me. Fine. What do you want? James slid off the car, hands in his pockets. He looked tired, older than he had at the wedding. Emma doesn't know I'm here. I figured. She's getting worse. I stopped walking. Worse how? The anxiety, the paranoia. She thinks you're following her, watching her. She sees things that aren't there. I've been following the restraining order, exactly. I know, I told her that. She doesn't believe me. I studied James carefully. His posture, his expression, he looked genuinely worried. Why are you telling me this? I asked. Because I think she needs help. Real help. Not just therapy sessions where she talks about setting boundaries. Professional help. You think she's having a breakdown? I think the lie got too big. She convinced herself you're dangerous, and now she can't separate what's real from what she made up. Yesterday she called the police, said someone was watching our apartment. They came, searched the area, found nothing. She insisted they just missed you. My stomach turned. I wasn't there. I know, but she believed you were. That's what scares me. So what do you want me to do? James looked at the ground. I don't know. Maybe nothing. Maybe the restraining order extension hearing will help. Maybe seeing you in court, seeing that you're just a regular person and not the monster she's built up, will help her reset. Or maybe she'll escalate. Yeah, maybe. We stood there in the driveway, the sun setting behind the house. 2 men caught in the wake of Emma's choices. The money, I said. The 40 grand. Was that your idea or hers? James was quiet for a long moment. Hers. All of it. I needed help, yeah. But Emma came up with the plan. The fake emergencies, the stories. She said it would be easy. That you'd never question her. She was right. I know, and I let her do it. I should have stopped her, but I didn't. I was drowning, and she threw me a rope, and I didn't ask where it came from. Do you love her? The question seemed to surprise him. Yeah, I do, but I don't know if that's enough anymore. It's never enough by itself. James nodded and walked back to his car. Before he got in, he turned back. For what it's worth, I don't think you're a bad father. I think Emma's scared and hurt and lashing out, but that doesn't excuse what she's done to you. Thanks for saying that. I wish it helped. He drove away. I went inside and told Anne about the conversation. Emma's breaking, she said. Seems like it. This is what happens when you build a castle on lies. Eventually it collapses. So we wait for the collapse? What else can we do? Day 30 arrived. The hearing was scheduled for 2 in the afternoon. Anne and I dressed carefully, professionally. We wanted to look reasonable, stable, not like people who'd been through 3 weeks of psychological warfare. The courthouse was familiar now. Same security line, same crowded hallways. We found our courtroom and waited. Emma arrived alone. No James? She looked pale, drawn. Her eyes had dark circles underneath. When she glanced in our direction, there was something wild in her expression. Fear, maybe, or determination. The hearing began. Emma's lawyer went first, arguing that the restraining order should be extended. Cited James's visit to our house as proof I was trying to circumvent the order through third parties. Claimed Emma's mental health had deteriorated due to ongoing fear, our lawyer countered. Presented evidence of the manipulation, the financial exploitation. Argued that Emma's fear wasn't based on real threats, but on a narrative she'd created to justify her actions. The judge listened, taking notes. Then she asked Emma to testify. Emma took the stand. Her testimony was different this time, fractured. She talked about feeling watched, followed, about finding evidence someone had been near her apartment, about nightmares where I confronted her violently. None of it was real. All of it sounded terrifyingly genuine. The judge asked specific questions. Had I violated the restraining order? No. Had I contacted Emma directly? No. Had I made threats through third parties? No. Then what is the basis for extending this order? The judge asked. Emma's lawyer stood. My client's mental state has deteriorated significantly. She's experiencing severe anxiety and paranoia directly related to her father's presence in her life. Even without direct contact, the knowledge that he's out there, angry and building a case against her, is causing psychological harm. That's not grounds for a restraining order extension, our lawyer countered. The order exists to prevent contact and threats. Mr. Foster has done neither. Ms. Foster's anxiety, while unfortunate, isn't evidence of danger. The judge flipped through her notes, considering. The courtroom was silent. I'm going to dissolve the temporary restraining order, she finally said. Mr. Foster has complied fully with its terms, and there's no evidence of ongoing threats or harassment. However, I'm strongly encouraging both parties to seek family mediation. This is clearly a situation that would benefit from professional intervention. She looked directly at me. Mr. Foster, you have the legal right to contact your daughter, but I'm advising you to exercise that right carefully. Give her space. Don't push for reconciliation before she's ready. Then to Emma. Ms. Foster, your father hasn't violated the law. If you have concerns about his behavior, document them specifically. But accusations without evidence harm your credibility. She banged her gavel. Case dismissed. We filed out. Emma left immediately, moving quickly toward the exit. I watched her go, feeling a complicated mix of relief and sadness. The restraining order was gone, but the damage remained. Outside, Anne squeezed my hand. It's over. Is it? The legal part is? But the legal part had been the smallest piece. The real damage was familial, social, psychological. That couldn't be dismissed with a gavel. We drove home. I expected to feel victorious, or at least relieved. Instead, I felt hollow. I'd won a court case, but lost my daughter. The math didn't work out in my favor. That evening, Trevor called. First time in 3 weeks. Hey, Dad. Hey. I heard about the hearing. Congratulations. Thanks. Silence on the line. Then, I'm sorry I pulled back. I didn't know how to handle everything. It's okay. It's not, but thanks for saying that. He paused. I talked to Emma yesterday, before the hearing. She's not doing well. James told me. Did he tell you she's talking about cutting off everyone? Not just you, but me, Mom, the whole family? My chest tightened. No. She thinks we're all against her, that we've chosen your side. She can't see that we're just trying to stay neutral. Neutral isn't an option for her. She needs enemies to justify her narrative. I think you're right, which is sad as hell. We talked for another 10 minutes. Trevor promised to stay in touch, to not let Emma's escalation push him away again. I thanked him and hung up, feeling marginally better. At least one family relationship was salvageable. That night, I couldn't sleep. Kept thinking about Emma's testimony, the fracture in her voice, the genuine fear in her eyes, even though nothing I'd done warranted it. James was right. Emma had convinced herself so thoroughly that she couldn't separate reality from the story anymore. She'd become trapped inside her own narrative, and I had no idea how to reach her. Around 2 a.m, my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. The medical records. She's been prescribed antipsychotics. Recent prescription. Started 3 weeks ago. I sat up, fully awake. Antipsychotics. That was serious medication. Not for anxiety or depression, for something else. I Googled the medication class, found information about use in treating paranoid delusions, schizophrenia, severe bipolar disorder, conditions that could cause someone to perceive threats that didn't exist. Emma wasn't lying about feeling afraid. She genuinely believed I was dangerous. Her brain was telling her it was true. "Who is this?" I texted back. "Someone who cares about her and about you." "Why are you telling me this?" "Because she needs help you can't give her, and you need to understand this isn't about you anymore. It's about her illness." The text stopped. I sat in the dark, processing. Emma was sick. Actually sick. Not manipulative or calculating in the way I'd thought. Her brain was creating false perceptions, and she was reacting to them as if they were real. The recording, the financial manipulation, the escalation, all of it could be explained by an undiagnosed condition that had been worsening over months, maybe years. I didn't know whether that made things better or worse. Anne woke up, found me sitting there staring at my phone. "What's wrong?" she asked. I showed her the texts. She read them twice, her expression shifting from confusion to understanding to horror. "Oh God," she said. "Emma's psychotic. We don't know that for sure." Antipsychotics, nightmares, paranoia. What else would it be? Could be misdiagnosed, could be a lot of things. Or it could be exactly what it looks like. Anne sat beside me. She's sick. She's been sick this whole time, and we've been treating it like a personal attack. Some of it was a personal attack. The recording happened before any psychotic break. Or during the early stages. Paranoia can develop slowly. Maybe she started feeling unsafe around you and couldn't explain why, so she created evidence to justify the feeling. It made a terrible kind of sense. Emma's escalation, her conviction that I was dangerous despite no evidence, the way she'd isolated herself from family, the intensity of her fear during the hearing. These weren't the actions of someone manipulating a situation, they were the actions of someone losing touch with reality. "We need to tell someone," Anne said. "James, Trevor, someone who can get her real help. She won't listen. She thinks we're the threat. Then we go around her, talk to her doctor, explain what's happening. They won't talk to us, patient confidentiality. Then we make them listen. We show up at the office. We explain that our daughter is decompensating and needs immediate intervention." Anne was right. Legal channels and family mediation wouldn't help if Emma was actively psychotic. She needed psychiatric care, possibly hospitalization. But getting someone involuntarily committed was nearly impossible unless they were in immediate danger to themselves or others. Emma wasn't threatening suicide or violence. She was just convinced her father was dangerous. "I don't know if we can force this," I said. "Then we document it and wait for her to crash. Because she will. This level of paranoia and delusion isn't sustainable." It was a grim calculus. Wait for Emma to deteriorate to the point where intervention became legally possible. Potentially let her hurt herself or her life further, because we couldn't force help, but it might be the only option. I sent one more text to the unknown number. "If you care about her, get her to a hospital. She needs more help than outpatient therapy and medication." No response. Morning came. I called James. "We need to talk about Emma's mental health," I said without preamble. "I know." "Do you know about the antipsychotics?" Pause. "How do you know about those?" "Doesn't matter. Is she taking them?" "Sometimes. She thinks they make her foggy. She stops taking them, then gets worse, then starts again. That's not how those medications work. She needs to take them consistently." "I've told her that. She doesn't listen." "Then you need to make her listen, or get her to a hospital where they can supervise medication." "She won't go voluntarily, and I can't force her." "Yes, you can. You're her husband. If she's a danger to herself..." "She's not. She's scared and paranoid, but she's not suicidal or violent. No hospital will take her based on that. He was right. The system required imminent danger, not just declining mental health. So what do? I asked. We wait, we watch, we hope she stabilizes. And if she doesn't? Then eventually something will happen that forces intervention. It was the same conclusion Anne and I had reached. Wait for the crash. Be ready when it came. But waiting felt like abandonment. I hung up and sat there, feeling helpless in a way I hadn't throughout this entire ordeal. I could fight legal battles, defend against accusations, document manipulation, but I couldn't fight Emma's broken brain chemistry. None of us could,